Hey everybody, this is Tracy with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap This Is Us, Season 1, Episode 18, which was also the season finale, and it was titled Moonshadow. So, we were all anticipating this season finale. But I don't think anybody expected the ending that we were going to get. So let's get started. So the show opens with Jack, and he's on his way to Cleveland, to see Rebecca, and he appears to be chugging back a few beers on his way. And I'm like, oh God, please don't let Jack get in an accident before he gets there. So he finally arrives at the club, and he stops, when he parks his car, and he's like questioning why he's there. And then he has a flashback scene to when he was younger, and he's at a neighbor's house. I think her name was Miss Peabody, and he's fixing her car. And so the car belongs to her deceased husband, and she's saying that, she needs to get rid of the car. She doesn't know why she keeps spending money on it. And if I'm not mistaken, the car that Jack was fixing on is the blue. Remember, he had the car in the beginning of the show, and then when Rebecca found out that she was having triplets, he sold the car to get money to buy a station wagon or something. So I think this is the car. Through the course of their conversation, the neighbor brings up the fact that Jack had served in Vietnam. And I don't remember that coming up, in the season prior. But he's now home, and he doesn't have a job, which was something that happened to a lot of the vets when they came back to the U.S. And he's going around doing little odd jobs, like fixing on cars. And Jack and a friend of his named Daryl, I also have aspirations to one day own their own garage. So then Miss Peabody, she's asking Jack about, dating, and she tells him that a friend of hers has a granddaughter that she wants to hook Jack up with, and Jack, he finally says, okay, whatever you want to do. Then we have a scene with Rebecca and some of her friends, and one of them is getting married, and they ask Rebecca, who's going to be her plus one, but she doesn't have anybody, and she's like, just put me at the Lonely Hearts table. And so Rebecca tells them that she's done a demo and sent it off to a recording company, so she's hoping that, she's going to get signed soon and start her singing career. But the friends aren't as optimistic as she needs them to be. And so they're telling her, basically she needs to have a plan B. And I think their plan B is you need to find a man and get married. Because remember, this was like in the late 60s, early 70s. Back at the club, Jack finally makes it inside, and he's sitting at the bar, and he's like chugging back these drinks faster than he probably should be. And we go to Rebecca's dressing room, and Ben comes in, and I was thinking he was coming in to let her know that Jack was out at the bar, but instead he comes in, to kind of make his move on her. And when he finally, and so as he's talking to her, Rebecca's saying that, she really shouldn't be there, that she should be home with her family watching ER. And then he jokingly tells her, well, don't worry about it because ER was a repeat, and I kind of felt old because I used to watch ER. I used to love that show. Thursday nights was ER night on NBC. And so Rebecca, she laughs, and he tries to kiss her, and then when he does that, she pulls back like, whoa, and then she goes off on him, and she starts thinking about, when Jack had told her that the only reason Ben scheduled the tour was because he wanted to get her away and try to win her back. Rebecca storms out of the dressing room, and she goes in search of a telephone so she can call Jack. But she walks right past Jack but doesn't see him at the bar, and he doesn't see her when she walks by because I think his bike was to her. And so she calls and she leaves a message on the phone basically telling him that she loves him and she misses him and she can't wait to get back home. So in another scene from his younger days, Jack returns home, after fixing Miss Peabody's car, and his dad is writing him about, getting a job so he can get out of his house. And remember, the dad was an alcoholic and abusive to Jack's mom. And so he tells him that, Jack tells his dad that he did 2 jobs that day repairing cars, but of course the dad wasn't trying to hear it. And I can't remember, I turned away for a second to do something, and then I remember the dad saying, "That's my boy." So I don't know if he was being sarcastic because Jack didn't have a real job. He's going around doing little things to make money, or if Jack had given him some of the money that he had earned. So I totally missed like a minute or so in there. So up in, it looked like the attic. It didn't look like a bedroom that was in the house. So I don't know if Jack was staying in the attic or if that was where he stored his stuff. But he pulls out a metal can, and in the can he has all his cash in there. And he puts the money that he earned from the day into the canister. And then he sits on this sofa or something that was up there, and he, starts, I guess, reflecting over like, when am I ever going to get out this house with this crazy man? Then we have a scene where Jack is with one of his friends. And at first I thought the friend was Miguel, but later it turns out that his name was Daryl. And they're out looking at a garage. And it turns out that the two of them were hoping to buy the garage because I guess they both like working on cars. And Jack says that he has to get him and his mom, out of his dad's house because his dad is crazy. And Daryl says that, they're going to make it. They just got to be patient. And then Jack suggests that they go try their luck at a poker game. And I think the person who told them about the poker game was Daryl's cousin. Or this was like another scene where I had been turned away. But anyway, one of them knew about these poker games and was telling them about it. And so they want to go check it out. Back at the club, Jack has had way too much to drink. And he decides to go looking for Rebecca. So he's storming through the club. And you can hear somebody in the background telling him, to come back, that he can't go down these stairs, I guess, which is where the dressing rooms were at. So he finds her dressing room, but she isn't there. And then he confronts Ben. But then Ben, I don't know if he did it intentionally or if he was just nervous about what Jack was going to do. And he didn't know if Rebecca had talked to Jack, which didn't make any sense because Jack couldn't have gotten there that fast because I think they were in Cleveland, which was a 2-hour drive or something. But anyway, he says, he didn't mean to come on to Rebecca. And, he realized that he crossed the line, but it wasn't Rebecca's fault. So then Jack gets enraged and he punches Ben in the face. And then Rebecca walks up, as the band members are pulling Jack off. And she's totally humiliated, and angry. So then Rebecca tells the bouncer, to take Jack out to the car and don't let him, drive off. And she turns and asks Ben if he's going to press charges, if they need to call the police. And Ben says no. So she lets him know that, she's quitting the band and she needs to drive Jack home. And, that all of this was just a really bad mistake. So we have another scene from their youth, and Rebecca gets a rejection letter on her demo, so she's feeling bad, but she decides to call her grandmother and tell the grandmother to let Miss Peabody know that she's open to meeting Jack and going out on a date with him. Then we go on to Daryl, and he's having second thoughts about them going to this poker game, but Jack is all pumped up and he says that he wants to go in. So they go inside, and I just know right off the bat that this is some gangster mess and that this is not going to turn out well for Jack and Daryl. So Jack gets lucky and he wants to quit after, winning about $1,000 in the first game. But the guy's like, you didn't even finish your drink. How are you going to leave? So Jack, chugs his drink back and he puts $10 on the table. And then him and Daryl leave. And when they get outside, they're jumping up and down happy, that they had won like almost $1,500. And then all of a sudden, 2 guys come and beat them up and then take all their money. And I really felt bad for Daryl because Daryl, he put in like $10 and then he was out of the game. He wasn't, trying to give up his money, but then they end up taking all of his money as well. So after the guys beat them up, they tell them that they are to never come back there again. On the way home, Daryl is trying to be encouraging and telling him that, they'll find a way to get the money to get the garage. But then Jack tells him about, his father and how his father, whenever, faced with the choice between doing the right thing and the wrong thing, he always does the wrong thing. But he tries to do the right thing all the time, and look where it's gotten him. And then he tells Daryl, but then he asks Daryl, when is it going to be his lucky break? When is things going to finally work out for him? Jack tells Daryl that, the following week that they're going to go back and that he's going to get the money because he needs to start the life that's waiting on him and that he can't, keep with all this nickel and diming going on. On the drive home from the club, Rebecca, she doesn't want to talk to Jack, and they get home and things are like really tense. And, Jack says that he'll call Ben in the morning and apologize, and then he'll call AA. He tells Rebecca, that he's been drinking for a few weeks now, and the two get into a really heated argument, about his drinking, and then it turns into her not having a life with any meaning. And so Rebecca says that the reason Jack, started back drinking was because he hated the fact that she was finally going to have a career, with her singing. And then he tells her that, I think he actually told her that singing at a bar at 40 was not a career. It was just something to do. And then he tells her that the reason he was angry was because she lied about the band guy and it had nothing to do with her wanting to sing. So things get totally out of control. And, of course, with these type of arguments, people say what's really been on their minds, but they haven't said it. And because they're saying it in the heat of the moment, it comes out totally wrong and feelings get hurt, and it's sort of like the point of no return. Jack said, Jack finally pulls back, from the argument because he realizes that, they are over the top and saying stuff that they shouldn't be saying. And he tells Rebecca that despite everything that he loves her. But when he says that he loves her, Rebecca, asks him, what is it that you love about me? And Jack couldn't answer the question. Rebecca says that she's really tired and sad and just wants to go to bed, and she asks Jack not to follow her. The following morning, Rebecca wakes up and she goes downstairs, and Jack, he's still sitting on the sofa. I don't know if he even slept that night. And so she tells him not to apologize, and she knows that, they both feel horrible after all the things that they said to each other. But despite how it came out, it was things that they were both feeling and that they can't take it back. So she tells him that he needs to go stay with Miguel for a while, and he gets his things and, prepares to leave. But then Rebecca's worried about, what they're going to tell the kids. And, Jack being Jack, he tells her that the kids will understand, because at the end of the day, they love each other and they are doing it to work on their marriage. But sometimes married people just need a break. Then we have another flashback scene, and it's the night of their first date, and Jack is running late, and so he and Daryl are at the bar, and Jack, has this plan to rob the place. I thought they were going back to play the poker game again or rob the people at the poker game, but no, so I'm thinking the bar is a front for the poker game. I really believe that the same people are involved. So he has figured out, what time the bartender counts the money, what he does at closing and all of this. So he tells Daryl to go to the phone booth, and at the time that the guy would be counting the money, for Daryl to call and then keep the guy on the phone, and that the guy would leave the register open when he went to get the phone. I guess he had cased the place and saw that the guy does this. So like clockwork, Daryl calls, the guy goes to answer the phone. He left the register out, and then Jack gets up to go and take the money out of the register. But as Jack goes to take the money out of the register, we flip over to the blind date with Rebecca. And so I thought that Rebecca was sitting there waiting on Jack to come, but no, it was some guy named Ethan that showed up. And then to just make the whole thing crazier is that she didn't like the Ethan guy, and they were at this bar where they did karaoke. And so she tells the guy, that she had a song to go sing. So she goes up on the stage to sing her song. Then we go back to Jack, and what made Jack pause at the register was because he heard this woman singing, and when he looked up, it was Rebecca. So he had then stood Rebecca up, and then I guess they found somebody else for Rebecca to go out with. And I thought that was just so funny. What a chance meeting, because she actually stopped Jack from making the biggest mistake of his life. Then we finally get a scene in the present, and we have Kate, and she's telling Toby that she's finally decided what she wants to do career-wise. And then we have Kevin, and he's telling Sophia goodbye because he has to return to LA because remember Ron Howard called. And then Randall is thumbing through a photo album full of, their family pictures. And when we left Jack and Rebecca, when they were, he was getting ready to go to Miguel's, he was giving her like this long dialogue about, the children understanding, about them being, you know, in an argument or whatever, and that they're doing it for the family. And then that conversation is continuing in the scene with Randall as he's looking through the photo album. You can hear Jack talking in the background. And then Randall goes into Beth and tells Beth that he knows what he wants to do. And then Beth asks him what, and he says that he wants them to adopt a child. And I thought, oh, this is just so sweet. So still it's like 5 minutes left to the show. I'm like, okay, so what happened to Jack? Like, are we about to find out, you know, how Jack died? But then we go back to Jack and Rebecca, and he explains to her that the night that they met, he was supposed to have a date, but he stood the girl up. And then he never asks, you know, what happened to the girl. And then he tells her about all the things that he loves about her, her smile, the fact that she never changed from the day that they first met. And then he tells her that she isn't just his great love story, she was his big break. So remember when he was getting ready to rob the place, he said that, you know, he was finally going to get his big break. And so it didn't turn out to be that money. It turned out to be Rebecca. But the funniest part is that I don't think they ever knew that they were each other's blind date. But then Jake walks out the door, and then we get like this little heavenly bright light scene, and the show ended. So we still don't know how Jake died. What a way to get us to hold our bated breath waiting on season 2 to come back. And I'm telling you, if they don't tell us how Jack died in the first episode of season 2, I am going to be so mad. But it was another awesome episode, and to be honest with you guys, I'm not ready to say goodbye to Jack yet, so I'm okay with NBC doing us like that. So leave your comments below and let me know what you guys thought about the season finale. Rate the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you get the chance, check out my recap of American Crime, because if you like This Is Us, I think you'll like that show because it is another great drama series. And until the next time, I will chat with you guys later. Bye-bye.